Hello everyone, welcome back to the Commander's Forge. My name is Andy Bentley, and the Forge is an area for me to talk about Magic, Commander, and anything else while I try and work on this whole mental health thing. Now, I've kinda been taking a small break from Magic, playing Magic that is, just because I've been working a buttload of overtime and I've been exhausted and tired and just can't drag myself to the LGS currently. I am hoping to rectify that in the next week or two, but I do have the Commander Sealed tournament share for charity coming up in early September. So, anyway, one of the things I do is I have a very active mind, and that translates to brewing a lot of decks. It's not the best outlet for things because looking at my desk right now, I've just got cards stacked everywhere. The big thing here is I have so many decks, and it's impossible to play them all at any given time. So typically, what I'll do is I'll have like a rotation of like 6 or 7 decks, and after like a few months, I'll rotate them out for new stuff, and it just, yeah, you need to normalize being able to cannibalize a deck for another deck sometimes. But one of the issues I have right now is I have so many ideas and so many potential decks that are just sitting on my desk. And sure, part of it is my imagination and how I tend to build decks. The rest of it is just the sheer amount of product that has come out that I just, when I see something cool, I'll tend to gravitate towards it. And I don't know, sometimes I just end up building just a ton of decks. And just the amount of space on my desk that is taken up with complete decks and non-complete decks. So I just want to go over the decks that I have on my desk that I have not actually finished putting together yet, but I have them at least started with the intent of putting them together. I'm going to start this off with saying, yes, 3 of these are landfall decks. Technically 4 of them. But I digress. So let's go with the oldest. And that actually starts with a Final Fantasy card that I ended up swapping. So originally I was thinking about building Joshua Phoenix Dominant, which is 1 a red and a white for a 3/4 human noble wizard. When he enters, you can discard up to 2 cards and draw that many cards. And you can pay 3 red, white, tap, exile him, and then return him. He becomes Phoenix, Warden of Fire. The first 2 steps are Rising Flames, so it does 2 damage to each opponent. And then step 3, you return any number of target cards with total mana value 6 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Exile Phoenix, then return to the battlefield face up. But I ended up finding that I had a Javi the Allfather, and what I ended up settling on is Sigurd Jarl of Ravensthorpe. So Javi is 3 and Naya, so red, white, and green. For a 6/6 God Warrior. Has indestructible as long as there are 4 or more historic cards in your graveyard. And he has the ability Sage Project. Whenever Javi or another legendary creature you control dies, return target legendary creature card with lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. This doesn't really work with the theme I ended with, but there are still enough legendary creatures to kind of make it work. So when I settled with Sigurd is because the whole thing I'm going to do is with the Saga summons. So he's Naya, so red, green, white for a 3/3 human warrior with Vigilance, Trample, and Lifelink. He has a boast ability for 1. You can put a lore counter on target Saga you control or remove one from it. And whenever you put a lore counter on a Saga you control, put a +1/+1 counter on up to one other target creature you control. So yeah, so this is a manipulating counters on summon creatures so that they can stick around longer. But moving right along into the next one. That's Felithar, Dawn of the Abzan. So it's Abzan, so white, black, green, for a 3/3 human warrior with trample. Whenever he enters or attacks, you can sacrifice a non-land permanent. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. In the past, I've tried to make token decks, and they've all kind of fell flat. This is my latest attempt at it, and I like having the black in there just for more utility with the tokens, which I think was my biggest downside to, like, Selesnya tokens. Anywho, moving right along, we have the brunt of the number of cards that I'm slowly building out decks for is the Final Fantasy set. So first up, we have our first of the landfall decks, which is Tifa Lockhart. 1 and a green for a 1/2 human monk with trample, and whenever a land you control enters, you double her power till end of turn. So, yes. That's going to be like a chain lands together deck kind of thing. After that, we have our second, which is arguably not just a landfall deck, but that's Choco, Seeker of Paradise, which is 1 in Bant, so green, white, blue, for a 3/5 bird. Whenever one or more birds you control attack, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You can put one of them into your hand, then put any number of land cards from among them onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest into your graveyard. And it has a landfall ability. Whenever a land you control enters, he gets +1/+0 till end of turn. So I already had the starts of a bird deck that I was going to use Gwaihir the Windlord for. But the big difference here is Gwaihir is 6 mana, Choco is 4. Choco also gives us green. So I just kind of shifted, and ended up adding some green. But continuing with that, our third Lands Matter deck is the Wandering Minstrel, which is a green and a blue for a 1/3 human bard. Lands you control enter untapped. You have an ability called the Minstrel's Ballad. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 5 or more towns, create a 2/2 elemental creature token that's all colors. And then for 3 and Wooburg, other creatures you control get +X/+X till end of turn, where X is the number of towns you control. So I, a while back, was able to get all of the Modern Horizon 3 commander decks for a relatively good price. And I got to thinking the blue-green one is Umu, or whatever her name is. Anyway, she can make lands everything. So, while there's only a finite number of towns, you can put other lands in the deck, find a way to tutor her out, and start turning all of your lands into towns. So that's kind of the direction that one's going in. Now we can take a quick break from landfall decks to other stuff. So one of the first legendary creatures that I pulled in my pre-release for the set is Cecil Dark Knight, which is a single black for a 2/3 human knight with Death Touch and the ability of Darkness. Whenever it deals damage, you lose that much life. Then if your life total is less than or equal to half of your starting life total, untap Cecil and transform it. He becomes Cecil the Redeemed Paladin. He is a 4/4 human knight with lifelink and protect. Whenever Cecil attacks, other attacking creatures you control gain indestructible till end of turn. It screams like Orzhov aggro, and that's kind of the direction I've been taking it in. So, yeah, there's that. Next up, we have Orin, the Venerated Guardian. 3 and a white for a 2/5 human spirit samurai with vigilance and the ability Shooting Star. Whenever he attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. When you do, you exile target creature defending player controls with power less than Orin's power until Orin leaves the battlefield. So the whole thought behind this deck is throw extra counters on Orin, exile things, run a bunch of protection spells to keep Orin on the battlefield, profit. Yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. Next up we have Vincent Valentine. 2 black for a 2/2 assassin. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a number of +1/+1 counters on Vincent equal to that creature's power. When he attacks, you can transform him. He becomes the Galleon Beast. He is a 3/2 werewolf beast with trample and lifelink. When the Galleon Beast dies, you return to the battlefield tapped with the front face up. So when it dies, it comes back as Vincent. Let's see. And the last of the Final Fantasy legends that I'm building, we have Lightning, Army of 1. Although I'm not building her that way, she is an army of many. 1, a red and a white, for a 3/2 human soldier with first strike, trample, and lifelink, and the ability Stagger. Whenever she deals combat damage to a player, until your next turn, if a source would deal damage to that player or a permanent that player controls, it deals double that damage instead. So, it's a bunch of equipment with a bunch of legends that care about equipment, and maybe some double strike. And after all of that, I can tell you about the last landfall deck. Coming from Edge of Eternities, we have Tanuk the Memorial Ensign. 1, a red and a green for a 2/4 Kavu pilot with landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, he deals 1 damage to each opponent. If it's the second time this ability has resolved this turn, draw a card. So, yeah. That's just what I kind of had in reach that I knew I was working on. That said, I'm going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about a deck I've talked about previously, I believe, but there's been some significant upgrades. So anyway, I'll see you when I get back. And we're back. Now, I do believe I've talked about Ave in the past. It's probably been a little bit, but to refresh everyone's memory, Ave, Progenitor Ooze, is 2 green for a 2/2 Ooze with Storm, and it isn't legendary if it's a token. Ave enters with a +1/+1 counter for each other Ooze you control. So, last time we talked about this, very clearly this was my Ooze deck, but it was also my Slime Against Humanity deck. So that's 2 and a green for a sorcery. Create a 0/0 green ooze creature token with trample. Put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is 2 plus the total number of cards you own in exile and in your graveyard that are oozes or are named Slime Against Humanity. And a deck can have any number of cards named Slime Against Humanity. But this is a little more of a combo deck, but it's not a pure combo deck. So there's, I believe, 16 in the list right now. But I have other things that are more important than the deck. Now, as far as everything else I'm going to talk about, it's all stuff that I've recently added. So I don't really need to put it in any order, but first up we have March of the World Ooze. So that's 3 green for an enchantment. Creatures you control have base power and toughness 6/6 and are oozes in addition to their other types. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, if it's not the first of their turn, you create a 3/3 green elephant creature token, which then becomes a 3/3 ooze. It seemed pertinent in an ooze deck. Next up we have the Earth Crystal, which is the green crystal from Final Fantasy. 2 green for a legendary artifact. Green spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. So that's, mana reduction, which is something we want. And also, if one or more +1/+1 counters may be put on a creature you control, twice that many +1/+1 counters are put on that creature instead. And you can pay for green and tap to distribute 2 counters among 1 or 2 target creatures you control. Next up we have Caged Sun, which is a 6 mana artifact. When it enters, you choose a color. Creatures of the chosen color get +1/+1, but the real reason it's in here, whenever a land's ability adds 1 or more mana of the chosen color to your mana pool, add 1 additional mana of that color to your mana pool. So this is a good way to get a lot of mana without spending a lot of mana, And to the end of the deck being very mana hungry, I decided to put one of my Gaia's Cradles in here, which is a game changer. And that brings the game changers up to 2, and I'll talk about the other one next. But Gaia's Cradle is a legendary land. You tap to add green to your mana pool for each creature you control. Now, my other game changer is the main combo piece in my deck, which is Food Chain. Which is 2 and a green for an enchantment. Exile a creature control, add X mana of any one color, where X is 1 plus the exiled creature's mana value. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells. So, let me give you the quick rundown of how this combo works. As long as you have cast 2 spells and then your commander, you can then sacrifice your commander and the 2 copies to make 15 mana. Then you can recast your commander and make 3 copies. And you can do this until you make so many copies you don't know what to do with. This can also produce infinite green mana. Now I hear you saying, okay, but how does that win me the game? In the last version of the game, it couldn't win doing that. It could just make a giant board state. But recently I added 2 cards that kind of help with the winning the game portion. So first up, we added Concordant Crossroads. So a single green for a world enchantment, and it just says all creatures have haste. The other one is a Craterhoof Behemoth, which is my token non-ooze creature in my ooze deck. Which is 5 green for a 5/5 beast with haste. When it enters, creatures you control gain trample and +X till end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. So as long as I have a few creatures that can attack, and I just make a boatload of Aves, then I drop Crater Hoof, and I should have enough trample damage to win. Now, alternatively, if I have 9 mana to work with, and exactly Concordant Crossroads, Food Chain, and access to Ave, I can win the game that turn. So the way you do this is you cast Ave third. You start with Concordant Crossroads, that's 1 mana. After that, you cast Food Chain. That brings your total up to 4 mana. Then you cast Ave. That brings your total up to 9 mana. But you also make 2 tokens in addition to your commander. You can then, at this point, you could keep one of the tokens, sacrifice the original and one of the tokens, then you cast Ave, and then you make 3 tokens with a remainder of 1 mana at that point, or something like that. So, yes, the cost of Ave does go up. So it was 5, becomes 7, which left you with 3. So you just keep sacrificing the original and however many tokens you need to recast your commander. But you should be netting exponentially more Ave tokens as you go. So, yeah. That is the new and improved Ave. And I really only ended up changing out like 5 or 6 cards to knock this up a bracket. And sure, the addition of Food Chain and Gaia's Cradle like automatically makes it a bracket 3. But it just kind of needed those cards to do what it wants to do reliably. Anyway, I've been talking your ear off for a little over 20 minutes, so I think I'm going to call it there, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. All of my links can be found in my link tree in the description below. I would like to thank Ian Foss and Cody Mulvey of the band The Crypt for allowing me to use music for my opening and ending, along with Nate and Erica Jacobs for making my original logo. And I would also like to thank Christina McNichol for creating my new logo. And I'll see you next time.